Texting is one of the most efficient ways to get a hold of your potential seller leads as a real estate wholesaler. But let's talk about the cons and pros of texting as a real estate wholesaler. As some of you may know, when I started wholesaling, actually texting was my main way of getting leads. I've got a couple leads from like references and stuff like that, or people referring to each other, but out of everything else, I didn't do cold calling, didn't do mailers, didn't do anything else. I've tried a lot of those things, but they didn't work for me in the beginning. So everything I did was texting. And by the way, guys, stick around to the end of the video. I got a free resource that I can give you guys at the end. But texting brought me over 6 figures in real estate wholesaling. So definitely, I think texting is a big part that I should talk about. And I've talked about it before, but today we're gonna go a little bit more into what kind of templates that I use, and just in general, let's just break down texting in this day and age, because there was a lot of different updates that recently happened over the past 6-7 months with texting, and let's just see if it's still a thing. To answer shortly, yes, texting is still a thing, obviously, but we gotta talk about why texting is good and why it's not. On one hand, you have this pros of this system, and number one of them is obviously the cost. The cost to get a hold of a seller and the cost per lead in texting is the minimal cost that you can get. It's so inexpensive. It's probably the most inexpensive way to get in real estate wholesale. And that's why I started doing it myself as well. You get a platform, I don't know, for example, Smarter Contact, it costs $100 per month, and you get texting. You probably can get a deal within $500, maybe even a couple deals within $500 to $600. It gets a little bit more complicated when it comes to mailers and stuff like that. You could do that with cold calling as well, but cold calling is a little bit different, so we'll compare those two in a second. So like I said, the cost, and another thing that's very, very good about texting is the fast response rate that you will get if the person is interested or not interested in selling their property. And the reason why this is important, because this saves you so much time. And this is where cold calling comes into place, which might be a little bit cheaper, but it takes you so long to get a hold of someone. It's much easier to just have a pre-recorded text or, pre-written text that actually I'm going to give you guys a free resource on all the text scripts that I use myself. So using text and templates, you just click one button and the text is sent out. You don't have to call, wait on the line, and see if you get a response or not. Obviously you have predictive dialers and all that stuff, but that's when it gets a little bit more expensive. But let's say you did the texting, you texted a person, they just say they're not interested, you move on. They say they might be interested, and now you start talking to them. And this is where the difficulties come into place, why texting might be a little bit on the difficult end, or I guess the cons of texting. The cons of texting is that it's very difficult to negotiate over text. Yes, it's possible. I'm not saying it's impossible. I do it all the time, but it's definitely different than negotiating in person or over phone. In person is my favorite way of negotiating, especially if you're right at the property. I leave a lot of negotiators till that point. So, in negotiations, I would try to feel out if the person is even close in the price range that I can pay. So if they're not too far off, I'll actually go see the property and see if I can negotiate to the price I need it at the property. I found that to be the most effective way for me. Obviously, you gotta find what works for you. Another thing is that texting can be very time consuming, which is pretty much like texting and cold calling. Both are very time consuming marketing methods. The mailers, it's not as much, because you pretty much just put an order and you just forget about it and then they go out. So that's why a lot of investors actually use mailers comparing to texting or cold calling, because you either have to hire someone to manage it or you have to do it yourself. So it gets a little bit more complicated there. But when you're starting off, those two methods are the best, and texting, in my opinion, is definitely the winner out of the cold calling or texting world when you're starting off. Another thing is texting, because it's so great and so cheap to start, it is a little bit saturated. I don't like that word, and especially when people talk about wholesaling or any business, being saturated. Yes, there is a lot of competition, but I feel like any business that you can start from the ground up without having a lot of funds is going to be saturated. Dropshipping, Amazon FBA, wholesaling, whatever you can think of, it's saturated. There's other people that are trying to make it. So the only difference it's gonna make is that how hard you work, how consistent you stay, and if you can get creative. Obviously, those things are gonna be very important. So yes, it might be saturated, but it's still, in the end of the day, a really good business, or in this situation, it's a really good way to market to properties, especially when you're starting out. So let's talk about, since you can't really negotiate, you can when you text, but what's the overall goal of texting? Overall goal of texting is actually to get information if the seller wants to sell or not. and get them on the phone after that. So the idea is that you start off by introducing yourself and kind of asking if they're the owner of the property. You kind of vetting out if they're correct phone number or not. And then a lot of times these people already have been texted by other people before, so they're going to tell you if they're interested or not interested in selling or whatever it is. But in general, that's very, very important way, or the most important way to start is actually to vet them out and see if they're interested in selling or if it's the correct phone number for the seller at all. And then when you vet them out, your number one priority is to get them on the phone. And this is what you have to do. You know, you don't want to negotiate too much. You want to get general information, or maybe they even tell you their asking price. And don't negotiate too much. If they're not too far away from that, say, hey, I have a couple quick questions. Do you mind hopping on the call? Here where you might lose some people, because a lot of people, if they're texting you, they probably don't want to be on the phone. And at this time right now, a lot of people don't want to like to be on the phone, so they would rather text. So a lot of times those people that answer to you over text, they're not going to want to hop on the phone call, but you do have to kind of try to push it towards that and say, hey, I got a really quick couple questions, can we hop in? That's your main goal, is to turn it from cold text to a warm phone call. Warm lead of a phone, and a phone call with a warm lead, I guess. But after that, if you got the person on the phone, all you have to do is just get the rest of the information. You already know they want to sell, or at least have an idea that they do want to sell. And you know you have the correct phone or the correct person on, behind that phone number. So you're not wasting too much of your time on the phone. You're texting, which obviously takes a lot of time, but if you use like good platforms that have mobile text apps, or you know that are mobile friendly, for example, like I know that Sharper has their own app on the phone. I know Smarter Contact website is actually mobile friendly. It's actually pretty easy to use from your phone. You get a notification on your phone that, hey, someone has texted you, and then you can go on their website and reply there. But overall, it's very mobile. It's very easy to reply, and then you can schedule a time to get a hold of the seller and talk further on. The free resource that I was mentioning to you guys earlier, I'm actually want to give you guys my text scripts. Their scripts are universal. So when you actually get the PDF file, you will see that a lot of the scripts have the inserts that you will have to put into your system yourself. You know, it could be their first name, last name, property type, because I did universal scripts. So you just have to replace, I don't know, property type with mobile home, vacant lot, house, multifamily home, whatever you're working on. So you have to replace that with, you have to replace the property type bracket with those, and then after that you also got the address and stuff like that. It's very intuitive, but if you guys do have any question about the PDF file, actually leave in the comments down below. It's a free resource. It's going to be in the link to this video, so go check it out. And by the way, if you do want to check out Smarter Contact, check out the link down below. There's going to be a $30 credit towards your account when you sign up, and let them know after the free trial that you've signed up using my link. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here. Like if you did enjoy the video. Comment down below if there are any questions. I reply to all my comments. Go check out on all the videos. I've always replied, so leave a comment if you have any questions. And as always, guys, peace.